I was debating with myself whether or not to review these Pink Floyd cover bands since, well, they're cover bands. They're not the real deal. But seeing how Pink Floyd split up before I was even born, there was that reuniting in 2005, and the last Pink Floyd album was pretty much just a David Gilmour solo effort, just with Pink Floyd's name on it. But since they did such a good job, I figured I might as well review them. My Pink Floyd sweater is at home, so I have the next best thing, well, in my opinion, an even better thing, my Rush shirt. So, the first Pink Floyd cover band, by the way, I'm probably going to be spending a lot of this review just comparing the two. I saw the Pink Floyd Experience back in 2013-ish, and then Brit Floyd, like June 2015-ish. So, first one I saw, the Pink Floyd Experience, I believe they're from Australia. I swear, they sound like exactly like the record. They go out of their way to make it sound as much like the original studio recordings of the songs as they possibly can. Like, the vocalists, when they sing, they sound just like David and Roger. They're playing, they know every note to every song, every instrument. Oh, let's see. Brit Floyd, though, they had some moments of improvisation, like some extended solos. Like, I'll probably get to that later, but like, you could tell they were deviating a little bit, but you could just tell they had more energy with them. Like, they were more excited. You could tell they were having fun up there. So I gave it a pass, because in my opinion, the number one priority of going to a concert should be to have fun. Well, there's also seeing your favorite artist live and in the flesh. That's obviously very important. I just noticed I'm like lopsided here. Let me move right there so I'm in the center. Sorry, I like symmetry. That was just annoying me. Okay, so starting with, I have the set list right here if you're wondering what I'm looking at. So, the Pink Floyd Experience, they began with 4 songs I had never heard of before. Astronomy Domini? I don't know how to say that. Interstellar Overdrive, Lucifer Sam, Fearless. And then they finally got Something I Know, Shine On You Crazy Diamond. And in my opinion, the original song, you guys are all going to hate me for this. And keep in mind, I'm not the biggest Pink Floyd fan. It's not like I've sat down and listened to every single moment of their music. But I feel like that song is too long. Like, it's 25 minutes. Like, 17, which is the version on the Echo's Greatest Hits album, that was, like, just perfect. And that's what they played, only the first 17 minutes. And that's really all you need with the song to get its full effect. And I just love how their saxophonist, when the saxophone solo, when it was time for that, he was up in the balcony, and then the spotlight shone, and like, we didn't know he was going to be there, and everyone's like, oh, look at the guy there. Echoes, another great song. Again, the 23-minute version of the song, the original one, just feels too long. And the 16-minute version they played felt just right. Like, just in terms of pacing with the song, it just fits better. Money, Gotta Love Money. High Hopes. I don't think I heard of that song before. I haven't been to this show in like 2 years, so the memory is still a little fuzzy. Pigs on the Wing, never heard of it, I'm sorry. Sheep, gotta love Sheep. That song sounds really awesome live. The studio version doesn't compare. So after the break, set 2, Obscured by Clouds, sorry, never heard of it. Next song, never heard of it. Have a Cigar, I feel like I should know it, but unfortunately it doesn't come to mind. I just remember it all being very good. But I do remember One of These Days, just because I love the opening bass line where it's all echoey, like, I guess you just put a ton of reverb on it, and it's like, oh, it's so great. And then, let's see, Dogs, don't remember that one. Wish You Were Here, gotta love Wish You Were Here. Then, Brain Damage and Comfortably Numb. Oh, that reminds me, Run Like Hell is up next. I was, like, toward the side, like, all the way to the right, like, that's where my seat was, and I was, like, in the middle. So from that angle, I could see backstage, and I could see them inflating the pig, like, 25 minutes before they started bringing the pig out. And of course, when they bring the pig out, everyone goes nuts, and I'm like, amateurs, I saw that pig like 20 minutes ago. Oh, that reminds me, my friend's dad, who, well, I'm already wearing my Rush t-shirt. My friend's dad, who I brought to the Rush concert I went to, he said he saw Pink Floyd in that exact same venue in like 78-ish, and he said he was all the way to the left up on the balcony, like, so you could see backstage. And he said that he saw them inflating the pig too, so, like half an hour before was supposed to come out behind the black curtain. And then when it finally came out behind the black curtain, everyone went nuts. And he's like, oh, come on, guys, I saw them inflating that thing like half an hour ago. And, oh, I have to tell you about the set list they did. When he saw Pink Floyd way back in the day, I feel like I should have been born in, like, the 50s or 60s, so I would have been alive to see all these bands around. But the show was 3 sets. They opened with Dark Side of the Moon in its entirety. Then the second set was Wish You Were Here in its entirety. And the third set was Animals in its entirety. So, on paper, essentially the greatest concert ever. Except for me, I would have chosen, instead of Animals in its entirety, it should have been The Wall in its entirety, and then an encore of like 4 miscellaneous songs from other albums. But that's just my opinion. Run Like Hell, Happiest Days of Our Lives, and Another Brick in the Wall Part 2. Again, Pig's still flying. I mean, it's great, everything's great. What can I say about that one? I don't remember it too fondly, probably because I wasn't that big a fan of Pink Floyd at the time. I never really was. But you also have to think about the dynamic of the audience at concerts like this. Like, I prefer concerts where the crowd is more energetic and involved. Like, Pink Floyd is the kind of concert where you just kind of sit back in your chair and relax and just observe what's going on. Like a Rush concert, you're going like, yeah, the whole show. And then, of course, like when Tom Sawyer plays, that's, imagine that, but multiplied by like a factor of 10. And that's what I was doing during all the crazy drum parts and fingering along to all the parts I knew and singing sing at the top of my lungs. Oh, and Primus, don't even get me started on that. To this day, I will still rave about the mosh pit at Primus. I was in the third row and gradually worked my way up to the very front. Oh man, Primus fans everywhere. You know how to have fun at a Primus concert. I'm so sad I missed them on this tour. I really wanted to go, but I had another thing to do that I had been planning like weeks, months ahead of time, and I couldn't go, but the next time Primus comes around, I want to see them. But luckily, at Brit Floyd show, again, it might have just been the audience or, again, just the energy the performers had on stage, because sometimes, well, more like a lot of the time, when the performer on stage is really energized, he can get the audience really energized. So, just going through here, like, when they did Wish You Were Here, everyone was singing along, like, the chorus and stuff. I don't know, I usually have more to say about this kind of stuff. Like, I'm sure you've seen my other concert reviews. I can rant more, I can rant better about things. I can tell this is going to be a crappy one, but, oh well, let's just get through the second concert. Okay, so the first thing on this Brit Floyd set list is Speak to Me. Even though they didn't really play it, it just kind of played in the background while the stage was dark and all the performers were walking up on stage, grabbing their instruments and getting into place. So the first real song they played was Breathe. Then On the Run, which, again, it's great, everything is great. Sounds just like the studio version. However, with the Pink Floyd Experience, both vocalists sound just like Roger and David, but with Brit Floyd, they were both, like, the Roger Waters vocal impersonator person sounded just like Roger Waters, but the David Gilmour sound-alike, he sounded kind of not like David Gilmour. So, I only noticed it at certain points, but other than that, he did a good job. Then they did Time. That song is, the intro to the song especially is always great live. Oh, and I'm so happy they did The Great Gig in the Sky, because, okay, for the Pink Floyd Experience, I forget if they had the female background singers, like backup singers, but with this one they did, and one of them sang The Great Gig in the Sky, which, I mean, I love that song because there's no lyrics. It's all lyricless vocals. So, like, it can break through the language barrier. Like, music, like, I'm gonna sound like such a hippie. Music should be universal. It's like, and by breaking the language barrier, like, that's one thing I love about, like, more instrumental music. It's like, because there's more appeal to it. And just, especially if you can get a vocalist who can sing it with such passion and throwing their heart into it like she did. And on the record, I always thought it was like a fat black woman singing it, not some skinny white woman. And I'm like I saw pictures of the lady who did the original Dark Side of the Moon sessions, and I'm like, that's her? That's that magnificent voice? I thought she would be like out to here, looking more or less like Mary J. Blige. But still, they did an awesome job. And just like the Pink Floyd Experience, they also did Shine On You Crazy Diamond Parts 1 through 5. And unfortunately, there was no balcony this time for the saxophonist to get up on. However, he did get up on a little platform on the stage, which I guess was their way of doing it. Then they played the oldest song in their set list, See Emily Play. I think that's 67, right? That's an old song. It doesn't really sound like a Pink Floyd song. It sounds more like just, I guess, like generic late 60s psychedelic rock, which is what Pink Floyd was at the time, before they started really getting progressive and really started forming their own sound. Let's see, Happiest Days of Our Lives and Another Brick in the Wall Part 2. Oh, the audience loved that. They went nuts. Keep Talking. I'm surprised they did that, because I actually like that song, and I don't think a lot of people do. But, I don't know, it was cool to see that live. Like, I don't like the studio version of it that much, because it's produced in this, like, cold, clinical way. Again, going back to Rush. Like, you know the Rush albums, Force 10 through, no, Hold Your Fire through Roll the Bones. Those albums just seem to be lacking in energy, and I feel like it's mostly just because of the production quality and the way everything's mixed. Like, it's mixed really just, like, dry and without any flavor. Like, that's... Like, if you hear those songs live, they're awesome songs, but when you hear them, the studio versions, they just don't hold up. And that's why I think that song isn't as popular as it is. On the Turning Away, is that their 2014 album, the new one? I forget. I mean, it has a nice atmosphere to it, but I didn't find it that particularly engaging. Again, they closed the first set with Sheep. Interesting. Again, it's an awesome song live. Open the second set with One of These Days. Great song. Louder Than Words. Don't really remember that one. Money, Gotta Love Money. Second Controls for the Heart of the Sun. That's a really cool song too. Have a Cigar. Again, I don't remember that one. Wish You Were Here. Gotta love that. Final Cut. Comfortably Numb. It's great. It's great. Everything's great. That's gonna be my catchphrase for this video. And then the encore. It's listed as an encore, but really it's just, it's all the second set. I did feel like the second set went on kind of long, though, since they played the entire last, like, 20 minutes of The Wall. I don't want to say the whole second side, because I think that album was originally, like, 2 records. Because there's so much music on it. It's like 26 tracks. Oh, and that reminds me, one of these days, because of the intermission, I was in the bathroom, and I was caught up talking to this guy about, like, guitars and music we like and stuff, and he was gonna see, again, Rush. And we were both talking about how excited we were to go see them. And because of that, I missed like the first 3 minutes of that song. And I was kind of sad. Let's see. The Show Must Go On, In the Flesh, Run Like Hell. Okay, the next 3 songs, Waiting for the Worms, Stop, and The Trial, this is like, I was really surprised by this because I hadn't heard The Wall in its entirety at this point, and those last 3 tracks are so grand, so orchestral, so just big. Like, this is a Pink Floyd song? Sounds like something off Broadway. And then, like, the trial, the suspense builds and builds and builds, and it's really dark sounding, and the imagery up in the monitors is just of, like, this stick figure. It's actually, like, a little mildly disturbing, just like the stick figure being tossed around by all these, like, big authority figures, like, just being abused and squashed and thrown in holes and stuff, like, you're nothing and stuff. And it's just, like, again, the song just keeps building and building and building, and you're thinking, what's gonna happen? But then everything just goes quiet, and they do my new favorite Pink Floyd song, Outside the Wall. Again, not the studio version. The studio version sucks. The live version is the version you want to see, because, oh man, just, there's nothing, it's totally unplugged. It's just clarinet, uke, mandolin, like, just people arm in arm swaying back and forth, just, oh, just singing these beautiful lyrics, and they're accented by the Roger's narration over it, and it's, I just had, like, a little orgasm. It's one of the most beautiful songs I ever heard in my life. I almost broke down crying right there. It's my personal 4th most beautiful song I've ever heard. Just, oh wow. Just, words don't describe it. You just have to look up the live version of this song. I don't care if it was a cover band. Just, it was so beautiful. Just, oh. And then when they walked off stage, still, like, humming the tune of the song and still, like, quietly strumming their instruments, I just had to sit there for, like, 2 minutes, because I was just awestruck at the last, like, 3 minutes of what I had just seen. I just didn't want to stand up. I wanted there to be more. And it's so ironic, because the second set was so long, and they played so many songs, and, like, while they were doing the last part of The Wall, I was just like, okay, this is getting kind of boring. I kind of want this concert to end now. Like, I've been to concerts where I was never bored. Like, Primus, never bored. Rush, never bored. Lamb of God, never bored, mostly because I was just fearing for my life at that concert. Weird Al, never bored. Both times I saw Weird Al, I was never bored. Dream Theater, I got bored in places at that show. But, just that last track, it's so simple, but it's so effective. It's so innocent. That's the thing. One of the big things that for me can make music great is if you just approach it with this childlike innocence of just love and just throwing your heart into it. Just whatever it is. Like, I think I've come to the conclusion that's why I love Buckethead so much. Buckethead is my favorite musical artist, and he's like a child. He approaches music in this childlike manner, just this innocent, loving manner. It's just something, you can just tell he loves doing what he does. He just, like, some might see, like, the video game and horror movie, Disney movie, anime show references and clips in his early stuff to be kind of juvenile, but I see it as I just see it as innocent and loving. And Outside the Wall, that song captures that. Oh, and if you're wondering what my top 4 most beautiful songs are, there's Outside the Wall, just for the pure happiness it brings. Number 3 of all things is Headlights by Eminem. I know that sounds like a weird one, but just listen to the song. It's such a tearjerker. He just pours like all of his confessions, all of his just apologies to his mom, and it might just be because I love my mommy very much, and if anything were to happen to our relationship, I would just cry, and I just love that song. It's so powerful, it's so just direct, not to mention Eminem is an awesome rapper, and the lyrics to the song are really great. Just the analogies he uses are so good. Oh, I know it sounds weird, but just look that song up. It's so good. Number 2 is Dream Theater's The Spirit Carries On. I think in a lot of Dream Theater songs, they're just kind of like robots, and they aren't that emotional. And sometimes I have to remind myself of why I like them so much. And it's songs like The Spirit Carries On. It's not particularly technical or hard to play, but just the message of the song is so beautiful. The instrumentation is so great. And during the 3rd chorus, when the gospel choir comes in to sing, like, the last chorus, and then it goes into this awesome outro that's loud at first, but then gets quieter and quieter, and then John and Jordan do their duet thing with piano and guitar, and it's so good. I'm so sad they didn't play that song at the Dream Theater show I went to, because that's like my favorite Dream Theater song. Number 1 is Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror, because the message of the song is awesome. Again, I'm a sucker for gospel choirs. When the gospel choir starts coming in toward the second half of the song, it's just, sweet. And then, again, the passion MJ puts into that song, it's just like, oh, yes. And I think that's the only song that ever made me just full out breakdown crying. Like, the other 3 have made me tear up, but not break down. Man in the Mirror is the one song that ever made me break down. I just forgot. This is supposed to be a concert review. I should be looking back at this. Well, to sum it up quickly, they're both great cover bands. If you're looking for an authentic, note-by-note retelling of Pink Floyd's music live, see the Pink Floyd Experience. If you're looking for not quite note-by-note same covers, but still, like, really energetic, everyone's gonna have a great time, and again, that awesome Outside the Wall outro, see Brit Floyd. You can't really go wrong with either of these bands. Seeing how Pink Floyd realistically isn't gonna throw any more shows anymore, seeing how, like, the relationships between the band members are, like, deteriorating and stuff, and, like, they thought they'd been doing it long enough, like, we have enough stuff, not to mention they're probably super rich, so they're like, we could have retired at age 23 and been fine. But, yeah. I was kind of reluctant about doing this, since do cover bands really count? But, I mean, it's a big production. They sold out, like, these big auditoriums that seat thousands of people. At least one of them sat thousands of people. The other sat like a few hundred, maybe verging on 1,000. But yeah, just again, it's great. It's great. Everything's great. And I think I'm only saying that because, yes, they're good. And they don't get me wrong, they are properly good. It's just I prefer a show with more energy and more audience involvement. Like, if you just have me sit back for 3 hours, I'm gonna get bored. So, yeah, definitely check them out. If they're touring in your area, if you're a Floyd fan and you want to see some Pink Floyd done well live, then knock yourselves out.